unusual money making. In the last episode, I covered 10 methods that you guys sent me and placed them on the unusual money making leaderboards. In today's episode, I have once again decided to take more of your suggestions, except this time, we're choosing the best of the best. Methods that some of you claim to make 1, even 2 mil an hour. Methods that some of you probably won't expect. Can anybody top Mr. Gav's 600k an hour method of making Blurberry specials? Let's find out in today's episode of testing your unusual money makers. Before we get into the methods, I'd like to show you guys something super cool thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Displate. Displate is the absolute best and easiest way to put art on your wall. Displates are unique because they're made out of metal, so you'll never have to worry about them tearing or falling apart. There are so many different designs to choose from as well. Whatever you're interested in, I'm sure they'll most likely have a Displate for it. The colors are bright and vivid, and overall the quality is fantastic. I personally decided to go for a Displate based off the best trilogy of all time, The Lord of the Rings.
For Frodo.
Setting up a Displate is incredibly easy and takes absolutely no skill, seeing as I was able to do it. They send you a very helpful kit to help guide you through the process, and since the setup involves magnets, you're able to adjust the Displates after you've hung them up to make sure they look perfect. Displate are a bunch of great guys because for every Displate sold, they'll plant one tree, and so far they've planted almost 12 million trees. I've got even more good news for you. For the next 2 weeks after this video goes live, by using my link in the description, you'll get 30% off your Displate order. 30%. And after those 2 weeks, you'll still be able to get 15% off. For the next episode of Unusual Moneymakers, I'm going to once again try out your methods. So in the comment section below, make sure to let me know what your favorite unusual moneymaker is. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're new. Alright, buckle up your seats everyone, because this may be one of the most unusual methods we've ever done. Tangerine Music commented that the most unusual money-making method is selling food to goblins in the Dorgesh Khan market. In the city of Dorgesh Khan, there's an activity called market trading. It revolves around selling exotic surface foods to Dorgesh Khan gourmets for a certain price, with some foods being more or less desired than others. You sell these foods to the gourmets who are walking around the market, and based off their reaction, they'll either accept your offer to sell them food or they'll say your price is too high. You're able to sell them almost any surface level food. The trick is to find a balance between a high price and the gourmet's willingness to buy more pieces. Sometimes lowering the price a bit may lead to greater profits since the gourmet will want to buy more. Before you start, you need to get permission to sell these foods from one of 7 goblins located somewhere in the city. After you get permission, you can start selling food to these gourmets. Now I want to reassure you guys that this is not a late April Fool's joke. This is actually an activity in the game. It just isn't very popular. The items that make you the most profit are bottles of wine, Admiral pies, and banana stews. Admiral pies buy for cheap in the Grand Exchange right away, but bottles of wine and banana stews sell way too slowly and are way too expensive, so I instead spent about 10 minutes buying bottles of wine from Fortunato and Draenor and banana stews in Apatol. I invested 60k into 100 Admiral pies, 50 banana stews, and 50 bottles of wine. When selling to the gourmets, you'll need to pay attention to the reaction when offering them the food. If they say it smells good, then they are interested in buying and will most likely buy your food in bulk, anywhere from 2 to 5 usually. If they say it looks nasty, then it's not even worth selling to them as they won't offer the best price for the item. You'll also have to hop worlds, since if you sell a lot of the same item in one world, they'll eventually become less interested in the food. The method I did simply involved selling most of the items in my inventory, running back to the bank, hopping worlds, and running back with a new inventory of food. I continued this process for 1 hour, and after doing this for 1 hour, I made over 200,000 GP selling foods to goblins. That means with the 60k I spent on the foods, I made about 150k in an hour. Now I know what you're thinking, that's not that much money. And you're right, but to me, the unusualness of this method makes it one of the best methods ever. The fact that I learned something new about the game that I didn't know existed before is super cool. The wiki does state that if executed well, a significant amount of money can be earned this way, which means that there may be a way to do this more efficiently and make more money. So it's quite possible that I came nowhere close to the efficient GP an hour with this method. Either way, this one was awesome. Phasmicor says that filling empty Bullseye Lanterns can make roughly 2 million GP an hour. By buying empty lanterns on the Grand Exchange, buying the same number of Swamp Tar, then filling them at the lamp oil still at either Dorgesh Khan or Remington, you can make around 1,500 lanterns an hour, profiting 1,500 GP per lamp, making roughly 2 mil an hour. Now this is a pretty bold one. 2 mil an hour sounds a bit too good to be true. Problem number one I ran into was that empty Bullseye Lanterns sold very slowly. If I wanted to instant buy, I'd have to pay almost 3 times the price, making my profit almost nothing. So there's 2 ways around this. You can buy empty lanterns from Miltog's shop in Dorgish Khan for 600 GP each, but he only stocks one per world and it's incredibly tedious hopping just for one lantern. You can also buy unfinished lanterns and add a lantern lens to it, which is what I did for the majority of my lanterns. I bought 125 empty lanterns, combined 200 lantern lenses and Bullseye Lanterns, and bought 4 from Miltog's shop. So all the supplies cost me 160k. Now comes the even more tedious part. In order to make a complete Bullseye Lantern, you need to add Swamp Tar to the oil still, then use your empty lantern on the oil still. And this is not automated, so you have to do it one by one, which means a lot of clicking, like a lot. It helps a bit to angle your camera so your inventory isn't too far away from the still, but it's still very click intensive. Filling 330 Bullseye Lanterns took me 30 minutes and I sold them on the Grand Exchange for 458k, which means we profited roughly 297k. If I were to do this for an entire hour, I'd make around 590k. But here's the thing, the time it takes to buy and prepare supplies cuts massively into the profit, so I'm going to knock it down to around 450k an hour. Still, 450k an hour filling Bullseye Lanterns is actually great, super unusual, and makes almost 500,000 GP an hour. I'm totally happy with it. I think the initial promise of 2 mil an hour may have excited me a bit too much. Meh. Implings are a pretty well-known moneymaker these days. That is, if you catch the Implings rather than buy them and hope for third age from a clue scroll. But what about crystal Implings? Ascension Pro says that hopping and catching crystal Implings is low-key like 1 mil an hour, plus you can get elite clues. I immediately had flashbacks to Puro Puro and I did not want to try out this method, but then I realized that crystal Implings themselves are unusual. Not only can they not be bought or sold on the Grand Exchange, they can only be caught in Prifddinas, the city unlocked after Song of the Elves. And their loot table is phenomenal, almost comparable with Dragon Implings. One crystal Impling can be found per world, and it takes around 2 minutes to do a lap around the city. A YouTuber called Chocobo has a crystal Impling hunting guide that I followed, and I have to say, this went a lot better than I thought. There is some competition for these Implings, so I decided to hunt these late at night so there'd be a better chance to find an Impling every world, and since the loot is great for Iron Men, I also decided to catch the Implings on Bond Waster, who has 99 Hunter. This was actually incredibly relaxing. RuneLite has a couple plugins that allow you to not have to strain your eyes to look for these Implings, as they can be spotted easily with the NPC indicator and Implings plugins. I was a bit skeptical that since it was my first time doing this that I'd only get maybe a handful of Implings, but in 1 hour I got 14 Implings, and as I was running to the bank to open them up, I found a 15th one in the bank. 15 Implings in 1 hour. A bit of luck was probably involved, but hey, I'd rather get lucky than unlucky for you guys. Those 15 Implings netted me 1.1 million GP profit in 1 hour, the biggest drop being 7 Renar seeds from 1 Impling, which was massive. I'm really happy I tried this out. An unusual Impling makes us an unusual 1 million GP plus an hour. That slides in beautifully to the #1 spot on the leaderboard. Sidjedge and Sire Benton both recommended I tried opening Ogre Coffins with Coffin Keys south of Castle Wars at Jigig. Ogre Coffins can only be opened during and after these Ogre Flesh Eaters quests and offer an interesting array of loot. Actually, it kinda sucks, except for when you snag yourself a juicy rare bone. Farg, Rarg, and Org bones sell for 4k, 6k, and 28k respectively. With Ogre Coffin Keys costing 1.7k each, you could technically profit a cool 26k if you get lucky with an Org bone. The thing is, there's only a 3% chance you can actually get this bone from a key, so it's all up to RNG. But this is definitely unusual, so let's try it out. 100 Ogre Coffin Keys cost me 170k. The Ogre Coffins are 15 seconds south of the Castle Wars bank, so I just ran and teleported between the bank and the Ogre Coffins. Pretty simple. Speaking of simple, that's exactly what the loot turned out to be. Simply mediocre. Aside from those juicy rare bones, you can expect to get things like nails, daggers, axes, and pickaxes, all bronze, iron, and steel, which pretty much adds up to, well, not a lot. But the saving grace here are those 2 Org bones that we managed to get. Will they redeem this method and bring us profit? No. Actually, after selling all the loot, I made back 170,965 GP, which means we profited 965 GP. But we have to take into account the cost of the dueling ring we used, so technically we made like 100 GP. But at least we didn't lose money. Ryan said that assembling Malediction and Odium wards at the Wilderness Volcano can at times profit 200k per shield. That's pretty solid. If you didn't know, the Odium and Malediction wards are made up of 3 shards which can be forged together at the Wilderness Volcano. To start off, I bought 1 of each shard. The Odium shards cost me 1.839 mil, and the Malediction shards cost me 2.685 mil. Instead of just doing 1 shield at a time, I decided just to go all out by doing both shields at the same time because Sometimes you just gotta be a bit crazy, you know? Luckily, no PKers. I made the wards went back to the GE. Now usually any method that involves buying things, combining them, and then selling them back makes very little to no profit at all, but to my surprise, I sold the Odium Ward back for 2,002,000 GP and the Malediction for 2.73 million, which means we profited 160k on the Odium Ward and 45k on the Malediction Ward for a quick 200k profit. Nice, pretty much exactly like Ryan said. I decided to do it again, except this time buy 3 of each shard and see if I could profit again. This time I wasn't so lucky. It took around 45 minutes to buy all the shards and I kept having to slowly up the buy price and some shards weren't buying. Eventually I bought them all for a much higher price than I wanted to since I was trying to keep it under an hour. This time we did 3 trips with 6 shards each, and once again, there was no PKers. After throwing these shields on the GE, I could already tell that our profit had been sliced into significantly, and with the Malediction Ward, we actually ended up losing money, 200k to be exact, and profiting only 6k on the Odium Ward. So this method with a bit of luck does work, but if you truly want to make continuous profit doing this, you'll most likely need to leave offers in for extended periods of time, meaning this method consistently isn't really viable. But I'll be generous since the first time around made me 200k. Cyan Wing said I should try to pickpocket ham members for their gear. I've heard of doing this before, some ham items actually go for a decent amount of money. To add on to Wing's suggestion, I decided to wear a rogue's outfit which actually works at ham members. Every pickpocket means I get double loot, which means that whenever I get a ham item, I'll get an extra one. The method is very easy. Teleport to Draenor, run to the ham lair, pickpocket until you have half an inventory of ham items, teleport back to Draenor Village, bank, and repeat. Super easy. In 20 minutes, I pickpocketed 64 pieces of ham member gear and sold it on the GE for 54k. The most expensive gear being the cloaks, which sold for 3k each. The gloves, logo, and boots all sold for above 1k. So if I were to do this for an hour, I'd be making around 160k. It really depends on your luck with the expensive ham items. Keep in mind though that this is with a rogue's outfit. Without one, your profit per hour would only be around 80k. It's definitely an unusual method, but not really worth doing again. Be Realistic on Twitter told me he found a neat, unusual moneymaker. You can buy box trap packs at the Hunter store in Yanil for 3,840 GP, and then you can sell those on the G instantly for 5,200 GP, making around 1,380 GP profit per box trap pack. If this is true, this could be some really good money. I decided to take out 1 million GP to buy these box traps. The Hunter store stocks 3 per world, so I'd have to hop around 85 times to spend 1 million GP on box traps. Luckily, since there isn't a hop limit anymore, it only takes around 30 minutes to buy out all the packs. So far, so good. A typical world hopping method to buy out a store. Let's see if the Grand Exchange can bring us some profit. As you can see, things were a bit funky on the GE. Although you're able to buy quite a few box traps an hour in shops, you're only actually able to buy 250 every 4 hours on the GE, so selling these things takes a long time. I played around with a bunch of different prices too to see if it helped sell quicker, but nothing really helped. I actually had to leave the offer in overnight for every box trap to actually sell at medium price, but we have a silver lining. 30 minutes of buying box traps made me 1.3 million GP on the Grand Exchange, which means off our initial 1 mil investment, we made 300k. So technically, a full hour of doing this could get you upwards of 600k an hour. Keep in mind though that I sold most of these for med. I was actually able to sell quite a few of them for 30 GP more, so I think with a bit more patience, this method could actually be quite a bit more GP an hour. A solid one to end on. We actually have one more. Dr. Brown says killing Sea Engineer's hardcore Iron Man. Well, so what does this mean for the leaderboards? Well, thanks to Ascension Pro's awesome crystal impling method, we have a new number 1 at 1.1 million GP an hour. That one is going to be hard to beat. Bullseye Lanterns are now in 4th, box trap packs in 6th, Goblin Gourmets, ham members and warding in 9th, 10th, and 11th, and the lovely Ogre Coffin method is 14th, right above that dangerous Dragon Impling method. If you guys would like to check out the spreadsheet, I'll leave a link to it in the description of the video. And that's going to do it for the video today. Don't forget, if you guys have a method for me that you'd like to see in the next unusual money making method video, make sure to leave it in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure to check out the Display website as well. It helps me out a bunch if you guys check them out, so I'd greatly appreciate it. And don't forget, for the next 2 weeks, you get 30% off. Quite the unusual money saver. Thanks for watching.
Wow.